She vanished in broad daylight, surrounded by families laughing and grilling. Yet not a single scream was heard. Not one witness saw a thing. How does a bright, fearless toddler disappear like smoke? A sunny afternoon at a lakeside campground in Alberta. Laughter, barbecues, kids chasing each other through the trees. But in just 5 minutes, less time than it takes to boil water, a bright-eyed 3-year-old girl vanishes. No screams, no footprints, no witnesses. Just gone. This is the story of Casey Rose Bohun, a mystery that twists deeper with every passing year. And today, we're asking the question that still chills her family to the bone. How does a child disappear without a trace? Casey Rose Bohun. Say her name. Not the missing girl. Not the cold case. Casey, a child who laughed, cried, and left tiny handprints on her family's world long before those 5 minutes tore her away from it. Before headlines reduced her to a statistic. Before search parties and sleepless nights swallowed her story whole. Casey was just Casey, 3 years old, curious, stubborn in the way toddlers are, like the way she'd demand her favorite Dinosaur rain boots every single morning. Sunshine or rain, didn't matter. Those boots were her armor. Carrie, her mom, would smile watching her stomp through dry grass pretending it was a swamp, roaring at imaginary creatures only she could see. Her dad, Dwayne, called her his little adventurer. She'd march straight into puddles, not to splash others, but just to see the water explode around her tiny feet. That fearlessness, it wasn't recklessness. It was wonder, pure, bright wonder. She'd pick wild blueberries with intense focus, staining her fingers purple, offering sticky handfuls like treasure. And at bedtime, Carrie's voice singing "Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star" could dissolve her into giggles. A sound her family describes as bubbles popping, light and sudden and gone too fast. This is who vanished. A little girl who loved the squishy feel of Play-Doh, who hid her brother's toys just to see him pretend scowl, who insisted on kissing scraped knees better, even if it was your knee, not hers. She wasn't just a toddler. She was Casey, a person, a spark. Her parents didn't just lose their daughter that day. The world lost her, that specific, irreplaceable mix of mischief and tenderness in pink dinosaur boots. And that fearless spirit? That's why, when she wasn't immediately found, their first thought was, she wandered off. She's exploring. But what happened next defied every scrap of logic her bright, ordinary little life had ever known. August 27th, 2017, late summer in Alberta. Cold Lake North Campground, a place buzzing with families squeezing in one last trip before school starts. Pine trees, picnic tables, the smell of barbecue smoke hanging in the air, laughter from kids playing tag, the gentle lap of water from the lake shore. Ordinary, safe, the kind of place you'd never think danger could hide. For the Bohun family, it was just another Sunday afternoon. Carrie, Casey's mom, was inside their RV trailer. Dinner time, the familiar clatter of pots and pans, the sizzle of something cooking on the stove. Just normal life. Outside, in the dappled sunlight filtering through the trees, 3-year-old Casey was playing, right there, just steps from the trailer door. Her older siblings were nearby, cousins too, a little knot of children, kicking up dust, maybe chasing a ball, lost in that easy way kids have when they're just being. Carrie knew Casey was out there. She'd just checked. Maybe she glanced out the small window over the sink, or maybe she stepped briefly to the door. A mother's instinct, always keeping one eye, one ear, tuned. Yep, there's Casey, pink shirt, probably those stubborn dinosaur boots still on her feet. Right there, close, safe. 5 minutes, that's all it was. Less time than it takes to walk to the campground bathrooms and back. Less time than waiting for microwave popcorn to finish. Carrie turned her attention back to the task inside the trailer. Stirring a pot, maybe wiping a counter, answering a question from another child. Just the small, necessary tasks of getting a family meal ready. Routine, unremarkable. Then, she looked again, back to the spot where Casey had been. Gone, just gone. No immediate panic. Not yet. Kids wander, especially a kid like Casey. Fearless, curious. She might have toddled after a butterfly, maybe followed a bigger sibling around the corner of the next RV. She could be hiding, giggling, playing peekaboo behind a tree trunk just a few yards away. Carrie likely called out first. Casey? Honey? Probably stepped fully outside, scanning the immediate area. A quick walk around the trailer. Casey Rose. Her voice may be still light, expecting to see a flash of pink, a little face popping out. Nothing. Okay, maybe she went down towards the beach. Kids love the water. Carrie might have started walking that way. Calling louder now. Casey, asking the other kids. Where's your sister? Did you see Casey? Shaking heads. Blank looks. That's when the first tiny knot of worry might have tightened in her stomach. Still manageable. Still believing she'd find her any second. She checks the small playground equipment nearby. Nothing. Checks between the neighboring RVs. Nothing. The search starts small. Family first. Dwayne, Casey's dad, joins now. Brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, everyone who was there spreads out. Calling her name. Casey. Casey Rose. Voices getting louder, sharper, cutting through the campground noise. Checking inside the Bohun's trailer again. Under beds. In closets. Anywhere a small child might curl up. Checking their own vehicles parked nearby. Did she crawl inside? Lock herself in? Nothing. Minutes are ticking by. 10. 15. That manageable worry is turning into something colder. Heavier. Dread. It starts low in the belly. Where is she? The campground isn't huge. It's busy. There are people everywhere. How can a little girl in a bright pink shirt just vanish? They widen the circle. Now they're asking neighboring campers. Have you seen a little girl? 3 years old? Pink shirt? Brown hair? Strangers shake their heads. Their own faces starting to mirror the growing alarm on the Bohun's faces. People start looking now too, peeking under trailers, scanning the tree line. The initial family search is becoming a communal effort. But it's still frantic, disorganized. Hope is starting to fray. Someone suggests the woods, the thick stand of trees bordering part of the campground. Could she have wandered in, deeper than anyone thought? A group heads towards the tree line, calling constantly, pushing aside branches, eyes scanning the shadowy undergrowth, looking for pink, listening for a whimper, a cry, anything. They find nothing. No snapped twig showing a small path. No scrap of fabric caught on a bush. Just quiet, dense forest, the beach, the lake, the thought nobody wants to voice. But it's there. Cold water. Could she have gone to the water's edge? A group rushes down, eyes scanning the sandy shore, looking for tiny footprints leading into the water, scanning the surface of Cold Lake itself. Is that something? A flash of color? No, just waves, just water. They walk the shoreline, calling, begging the lake to give her back. It gives them nothing. Silence. This is the moment it truly shatters. The moment ordinary worry crystallizes into pure, icy terror, because they've checked the obvious places. The closed places. The places a wandering toddler should be. And she is nowhere. Nowhere. In a campground packed with holidaymakers. On a sunny late afternoon. How? How is this possible? How could no one have seen her? Not a glimpse. Not a sound. A bright pink shirt should stand out like a flare. A 3-year-old doesn't move silently like a ghost. The call is made. 911, Carrie's voice. Likely shaking, breathless, trying to force the words out. My daughter, she's missing. She's 3. She's gone. The dispatcher asks the questions. How long? What was she wearing? Last seen where? Every answer feels like a hammer blow confirming this nightmare is real. The professionals arrive. RCMP officers. Their presence changes everything. The family search, full of raw fear and hope, is now joined by a grim, methodical urgency. The campground, moments ago a place of leisure, becomes a crime scene in all but name. Officers fan out. They start systematically interviewing everyone. Campers in neighboring sites, people down by the lake, kids who were playing nearby. Did you see her? When? Which way was she going? Did you see anyone unusual? Anyone paying too much attention? The answers are frustratingly, terrifyingly similar. No. Didn't see anything. Sorry. Search patterns become more organized. Grids are mentally drawn over the campground and surrounding woods. Volunteers arrive, campers, locals who hear the news. They form lines, walking shoulder to shoulder through the trees, eyes glued to the ground, calling her name until their throats are raw. Casey. Casey Rose Bohun. The woods echo the name back. A cruel, empty sound. They bring in dogs, search and rescue dogs, trained to find the living. Their handlers lead them to Casey's scent article. Probably a piece of clothing, maybe her favorite blanket from the trailer. The dogs sniff, circle, whine with focus, and then lead. A spark of desperate hope flares. The dogs move with purpose, towards the campground entrance. Towards the road. The handlers follow. Hearts pounding. Is this it? Did someone take her? Did she walk this far? But then the trail stops. Right at the edge of the gravel road leading out of Cold Lake North. It just ends. Like she vanished into thin air. No strong indication she went left or right down the road. Just gone. The dogs circle. Confused. The hope dies again. Harder this time. As dusk starts to fall, the reality sets in like a physical weight. Floodlights are set up, casting harsh, unnatural shadows. The lake is searched again. More thoroughly now. Divers enter the cold water near the beach, probing the murky depths with lights and poles, looking for what no one wants to find. They search for hours. They find nothing. No sign. Night falls completely over Cold Lake North Campground. The laughter and barbecue smells are long gone, replaced by the hum of generators powering the lights, the crackle of police radios, the low murmur of exhausted searchers, and the crushing, suffocating silence where a little girl's voice should be. 5 minutes. A sunny Sunday afternoon. A crowded, happy place. A bright pink shirt. And a question that hung heavy in the darkening Alberta air. A question that started as a whisper and grew into a scream inside Carrie and Dwayne Bohun's hearts. A question that echoes still. How? The first night bled into a terrible dawn. Casey had been gone for hours. The initial shock hardened into a desperate, grinding reality. The search had to grow. Bigger, faster, more thorough. Hope felt fragile, like thin ice, but it still existed. She had to be somewhere. By morning, the quiet Alberta sky over Cold Lake North Campground was ripped apart. The deep, rhythmic thump-thump-thump of helicopter blades echoed over the trees. Police helicopters, crisscrossing the area in tight grids, eyes scanning from above, looking down on the green canopy, the winding roads, the shimmering expanse of the lake, looking for a tiny figure in pink, a flash of color, any irregularity. The sound was constant, oppressive, a relentless reminder of the massive effort unfolding. But the skies saw nothing, nothing but endless trees and water. Down on the lake, it was even more intense. Dive teams were in the water. Cold, dark water. Men and women in thick black suits. Weighted down, disappearing beneath the surface with powerful lights. They moved slowly, methodically, dragging the bottom near the shore, probing through weeds and mud with poles, with their hands, searching for what everyone prayed they wouldn't find. A shoe, a piece of clothing, anything, hour after hour. The surface churned with their activity, but the depths gave up nothing. No trace. The lake kept its secrets. Back in the woods, it looked like a scene from another world. No longer a peaceful forest, but a landscape filled with grim purpose. Volunteers, hundreds of them now. Locals, strangers, people who just had to do something, formed long, snaking human chains, arm to arm, shoulder to shoulder. They walked slowly, painfully slowly, through the dense undergrowth, eyes fixed on the ground, scanning every inch, kicking through fallen leaves, pushing aside low branches, calling out, over and over and over, voices hoarse and cracking. Casey, Casey Rose, can you hear us? The forest swallowed their calls whole. Only silence answered. They covered miles like this. They found broken branches, discarded bottles, animal burrows, but no little girl. No sign she'd ever entered those woods. The frustration was building, thick and heavy, like a storm cloud you could feel pressing down. So many people, so many eyes, so much technology, and nothing. Where could she possibly be? Then, a spark, a flicker of something solid, something that wasn't just desperate searching. Search and rescue dogs, highly trained dogs, brought in with their handlers. They weren't looking for a body. They were looking for a living child. They were given Casey's scent, probably a small shoe, or her pillowcase, something that carried her unique smell. The dogs sniffed deeply, intently. They whined. They circled the Bohun's trailer, and then, one dog surged forward. It pulled its handler, straining on the leash, nose glued to the ground. It had a trail. A ripple went through the searchers. People stopped, held their breath, watched the dog move with clear purpose. This was it. This was the lead they needed. The dog led them away from the trailer, away from the immediate play area. It moved steadily, sniffing hard towards the edge of the campground, towards the main entrance, towards the gravel road that led out to the highway. Hope flared, bright and painful. Was she walking? Had she wandered this far? Or, the darker thought, The one clawing at everyone's mind. Was the dog following the scent of someone carrying her? Was this the trail of an abductor? Hearts pounded, feet moved faster, following the focused dog. This was a clue. A real, tangible clue. They reached the campground exit. The dog pushed right up to the edge of the gravel road. And then it stopped. It circled. It sniffed frantically. Nose pressed to the ground. Then lifted, sniffing the air. It whined, confused. The handler encouraged it. Fine, fine. The dog tried again, backtracked a few feet, came forward, but the trail ended. Right there, at the side of the road. Like Casey, or whoever carried her, had simply vanished, stepped off the earth. The dog couldn't pick it up again. It just stopped. Dead end. The hope didn't just fade. It shattered, like glass hitting concrete. The road, a gravel road. It should hold clues. Tracks, tire marks, footprints, anything. Police scanned the area. Nothing clear. No distinct footprints leading away. No fresh tire marks that stood out from the hundreds made by campers coming and going. Nothing was disturbed. It was just a road. And beyond it, fields. More woods. A vast, empty landscape offering no answers. The frustration turned into a gnawing anger. Where were the cameras? This was a campground entrance. Surely, somewhere, someone had a security camera, a dash cam, something pointing this way. The RCMP scrambled. They checked nearby businesses, gas stations, private homes. They appealed to the public. Did anyone drive by Cold Lake North around 5:30 p.m. that day? Did you have a dash cam? Running? The answers trickled in. No, nothing useful. No cameras captured a vehicle speeding away. No cameras captured a little girl walking alone. No cameras captured anything suspicious. It was a blind spot, a maddening void where evidence should have been. Back at the heart of it all, the Bohun's trailer became its own kind of torment. Police searched it again, thoroughly, methodically. They had to, and that's when they found it. Casey's favorite dinosaur rain boots, sitting neatly, side by side, right by the door, just where she might have kicked them off when she came inside. The sight was chilling, a simple, ordinary thing that became a horrifying puzzle. If she wandered off, why weren't the boots on? She loved those boots. She wore them constantly, rain or shine. Why would she go outside, especially towards woods or water, without her beloved boots? It didn't make sense. But if she didn't wander off, if someone took her, why leave the boots? Why leave them neatly placed? Was it a sign she never even stepped outside that door after Carrie last saw her? The boots sat there, silent, accusing, offering no solutions, only deeper, darker questions. The contradictions piled up, heavy and suffocating. The dog's scent trail suggested movement towards the road. But if she walked that far, across the campground, past other sites, through open areas, why didn't anyone see her? A 3-year-old in a bright pink shirt? In broad daylight? In a place crawling with people? How is that possible? Not one single credible sighting. Not one person came forward saying, "Yes, I saw a little girl matching that description near the exit around that time." Nothing. And the dogs trained to find living people, they found nothing in the woods, nothing near the beach, nothing but that one frustrating trail to the road that went cold. If she was out there, lost, scared, hurt, why couldn't the dogs find her scent anywhere else? Why didn't she answer? Hundreds of voices called her name. Helicopters thundered overhead. Searchers crashed through the brush. It was chaos. Loud, terrifying chaos for a little girl. If she was out there, wouldn't she cry out? Wouldn't she whimper? Wouldn't she, at some point, make some sound a searcher? A dog, a thermal camera might detect? But there was only silence. An immense, crushing silence that settled over the search effort like a shroud. Every lead evaporated. Every clue dissolved into nothingness. The helicopters kept flying. The divers kept diving. The volunteers kept walking, calling until their voices were gone. But the harder they looked, the more ground they covered, the more terrifying the truth became. Casey Rose Bohun hadn't just disappeared. She had vanished without leaving a single, solid trace behind. The search was massive. It was exhaustive. It was filled with moments of desperate hope. And it led absolutely nowhere. When a child vanishes, the mind races. It needs an answer. Any answer. Police, faced with the impossible void Casey left behind, focused on 2 main theories, 2 paths that seemed, on the surface, the most likely, but each path quickly crumbled into dead ends. leaving only shadows and questions. Theory 1, a tragic accident. Drowning. It's the thought that claws at parents' worst fears. Cold Lake was right there. Casey was drawn to water. She loved splashing. What if she wandered down to the shore alone? What if she slipped? Fell in? The water wasn't rough that day. But it wouldn't take much for a small child. This theory demanded evidence. Proof. So, the divers went back. Again and again. For days. They dragged the lake bottom near the beach. They used sonar. They searched further out. They covered every inch where the current might have taken a small body. They looked for clothing. For hair. For anything human. They found nothing. Not a single thread from her bright pink shirt. Not a strand of her brown hair. Not one of her tiny shoes. Lakes hold secrets. But they also give things back. Bodies float. Clothing snags. Something surfaces. Yet, after repeated searches, Cold Lake gave up nothing connected to Casey Bohun. The water theory began to feel hollow. Incomplete. How does a child drown without leaving any trace? How does the water hide everything? Theory 2, abduction. A stranger. Or someone known. This was the other obvious horror. Someone took her. A predator. Lurking in the seemingly safe campground. Seeing a moment of opportunity. Snatching her in those 5 minutes. The dog's scent trail leading to the road seemed to point this way. Like someone carried her to a waiting car. But abductions, especially ones involving young children, are messy. They leave ripples. Evidence. Panic creates noise. There's usually something. A struggle? Casey was fearless. Described as stubborn. Wouldn't she fight? Cry out. Make noise. Yet, not one person reported hearing a child scream, cry, or even whimper near the Bohun trailer or towards the exit. Silence. A suspicious person or vehicle. Campgrounds are communities. People notice strangers. People notice odd behavior. Police interviewed everyone. Campers in the next spot. People walking dogs. Families on the beach. Did you see anyone hanging around who didn't belong? Anyone acting nervous? Anyone paying too much attention to the kids? The answer was always the same. No. Didn't see anyone strange. Everything seemed normal. A getaway vehicle? The scent trail ended at the road. So, a car. But where were the tire marks? The gravel road should have shown fresh tracks. Signs of a quick stop and acceleration. Investigators found nothing conclusive. No distinctive treads pointing to a fleeing car. And crucially, no cameras. No security footage from the entrance. No dashcam footage from passing cars that captured a speeding vehicle. Or a child inside one. The road out was a blank. A motive? A ransom? Abductions often have a reason. Ransom. Revenge. Sick desire. But no ransom note ever arrived. No taunting calls. No body ever surfaced as a grim trophy. No one bragged. No one slipped up. Just silence. Year after year. The clean absence of any evidence typical of an abduction made it feel just as unlikely as the drowning theory. It was too neat. Too quiet. How does someone snatch a child from a crowded park in broad daylight and vanish like smoke? The unsettling whispers. Something else? When the obvious answers fail, the whispers start, quietly at first, then louder, circling the campground itself. The people who were there that day. Someone hiding in plain sight? Could it have been someone in the campground? Not a stranger, but someone Carrie and Dwayne knew? A neighbor? A casual acquaintance? Someone who blended in perfectly? Someone who watched the family, saw the routine, saw that brief moment when eyes were turned? Someone who could have quietly led Casey away, perhaps even with a promise or a familiar face. Without causing alarm? Someone who had access, knew the layout, and could disappear back into the crowd? A terrible accident. Covered up? The darkest whisper of all. What if something happened near the trailer? Not drowning, but something else. A tragic, sudden accident. A fall. A blow. Something instant and silent. Panic sets in for whoever was involved. Not malice, but fear. What if someone, maybe even someone who cared about her, maybe even a child, panicked? Hid her small body somewhere no one would think to look. Somewhere within the campground itself? Buried hastily? Placed deep in the woods away from the initial search grids? Hidden in a vehicle? Then moved later? It would explain the impossible silence. It would explain why the dogs found no trail leaving the immediate area except that confusing scent to the road, perhaps a red herring, or evidence of the body being moved later. It would explain the boots left neatly, she never walked out. It would explain why no one saw a stranger. It would explain the agonizing lack of any trace beyond the campground boundaries. This theory is horrific to consider. It points the finger inward, at the community itself. It suggests the answer might have been under the searchers' feet all along. Police have never publicly named a suspect or person of interest. They've said the family is not suspected. But the whispers persist because the official theories leave too many gaps. Could panic and fear have created this perfect vanishing act? The unbearable weight of not knowing 7 years. That's the crushing reality. 7 years of no Casey. 7 years of no answers. No body. No arrests. No credible sightings. No closure. The police theories stand, accident or abduction. But neither fits cleanly. Both are riddled with contradictions that scream into the silence. The drowning theory ignores the lack of evidence in the lake. The abduction theory ignores the lack of noise, struggle, witnesses, or vehicle trace. The darker whispers? They remain just that, whispers. Theories born from desperation to explain the unexplainable. Investigators likely chased down every tip, every rumor, every faint possibility. They would have looked at everyone present that day. They would have searched property records, alibis, backgrounds, but without a body, without a crime scene, without a single piece of irrefutable evidence. What can they do? Cases grow cold. Files gather dust. This is what eats away at everyone who learns Casey's name. It's not just the tragedy of a missing child. It's the sheer, maddening impossibility of it. How does a vibrant little girl, surrounded by people, vanish into absolute nothingness? How can modern investigations, helicopters, dive teams, scent dogs, hundreds of searchers, find not one single clue? The theories are like shapes in the fog. You think you see something, an accident, an abduction, a cover-up, but as you stare, the shape dissolves, leaving only the cold, thick mist of uncertainty. After 7 years, the only undeniable truth is this. We still don't know what happened to Casey Rose Bohun on August 27th, 2017, and that unknown hangs heavy, a question mark etched permanently over a sunny campground in Alberta, a question that refuses to be silenced. 7 years. That's thousands of sunrises Carrie Bohun has woken up not knowing if her youngest daughter is alive. Thousands of nights lying in the dark, listening to the silence where a child's breathing should be. This is the crushing reality for Casey's family. It's not just grief. It's something deeper, more torturous. It's limbo, a nightmare state of suspended animation. No goodbye, no body to bury, no grave to visit, but also no child to hold, no laughter echoing down the hall. It's the agony of being a mother without her daughter, a father without his little adventurer, siblings missing their sister. Carrie still sets a place for Casey at the dinner table. Every single meal. A plate, a cup, a fork, just in case. Just in case tonight is the night she walks back through that door. Hungry, maybe a little dirty, asking what's for dinner. It's a ritual born of unbearable hope, a defiance against the void. To stop setting the place would feel like giving up, like admitting she's never coming home. Carrie can't do that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. So, the plate sits there, empty, a silent scream in the middle of family life, trying desperately to go on. And then there's the guilt. It's a physical weight. Carrie has spoken about it, her voice breaking. I turned my back for 5 minutes. She said, the words thick with tears. Just 5 minutes. 5 minutes that shattered her world. That guilt is a monster. It whispers in the quiet hours. If only you'd looked sooner. If only you'd kept her inside. If only. It doesn't matter how many times people tell her it wasn't her fault. It doesn't matter that investigators, friends, family, even strangers insist she was a good mother. The guilt sinks its claws in deep. It feeds on the endless replay of that afternoon, the sizzle of the pan, the chatter of other kids, the glance out the window, the turning away, and then the terrible, empty silence where Casey should have been. 5 minutes of ordinary life. 5 minutes that haunt her every waking breath. But here's the raw truth that cuts to the bone. The thing that should make every parent watching this stop and feel a chill. This wasn't neglect. This wasn't some reckless moment. Carrie Bohun did what millions of parents do every single day. She cooked dinner while her kids played nearby, in what was supposed to be a safe, familiar place. She checked on them. She saw Casey. It was a blink, a momentary shift of attention, a normal, human moment, the kind of moment we all have, letting your kids play in the backyard while you load the dishwasher. glancing at your phone while they build blocks in the living room, turning to help one child while another is momentarily out of sight. These are the tiny, necessary lapses that weave through the fabric of parenting. They are not failures. They are reality. That's what makes Casey's disappearance so terrifyingly universal. It whispers a horrible question. Could this happen to me? Could my ordinary moment, my safe place, my 5 minutes of distraction, end in unimaginable, inexplicable horror? Carrie Bohun's nightmare holds up a mirror to every parent's deepest, unspoken fear. It shatters the illusion of control we cling to. We lock doors. We teach stranger danger. We watch them like hawks. And yet, Casey vanished, in a campground full of people, in broad daylight, while her mother was right there. If it could happen to Carrie, in those circumstances, where is the safety net? Where is the guarantee? This question hangs heavy over the Bohun family. It haunts their grief. Could anyone have stopped this? Was there a single, different choice that day, a meal cooked later, a different chore, a stricter rule about staying inside, that would have changed everything? Or is the darker thought, was Casey always destined to vanish? Was there some unseen force, some cruel twist of fate, that meant she would be taken from them? No matter what they did, it's an unanswerable question, a question that offers no comfort, only deeper despair. It traps them between blaming themselves and facing the terrifying randomness of the universe. Imagine the milestones. Casey's 4th birthday. No cake. No presents opened by her tiny hands. Just a silent vigil. Her 5th. Her 6th. Each passing year marked not by growth, but by deepening absence. What would she look like now? 10 years old. What would her voice sound like? What would she love? Would she still be fearless? Would she still adore dinosaurs? These aren't just questions. They are open wounds. Every birthday, every Christmas, every first day of school for her siblings is a fresh reminder of the life stolen from Casey, and from them. And the hope, it's a double-edged sword. It's the only thing that keeps them breathing, that keeps Carrie setting that empty plate. Hope that she's alive somewhere, that somehow, against all odds, she was taken but kept safe, that maybe she's living a different life, perhaps even happy, unaware of the family, searching for her. But this hope is also torture, because it means imagining the worst possibilities too. If she's alive, who has her? What are they doing to her? Is she scared? Is she hurt? Does she remember her mom singing Twinkle Twinkle? Does she remember her name? This hope isn't peaceful. It's agonizing. It's a constant, grinding anxiety about a reality they cannot see and cannot change. Dwayne, Casey's dad, carries his own silent burden, the protector who couldn't protect, the adventurer who couldn't find his little explorer. He's spoken less publicly than Carrie, but the pain is etched just as deep. The frustration of the fruitless search, the helplessness against the silence, the weight of holding his family together while his own world is shattered. His little adventurer is gone, and the greatest adventure, finding her, has led nowhere. The siblings live with a ghost, a sister frozen in time at 3 years old. While they grow up, they carry the weight of their parents' grief, the unspoken questions in their own young minds, the confusion, the fear, the strange guilt children sometimes feel, wondering if they could have done something. Their childhoods are forever marked by that August afternoon. This is the family's prison. No walls, but no escape. Every morning is a choice. Do they lean into the crushing grief? Or do they grasp the fragile thread of hope? Most days, it's both. They function. They work. They celebrate other birthdays. They try to live. But underneath it all, the current is always pulling, the desperate, unanswered question of where Casey is. The plate on the table is a symbol of that impossible tension. It's love. It's hope. It's defiance. But it's also a monument to the most profound loss imaginable. A mother's heart, suspended between the desperate need to find her child and the unbearable fear of what she might find. It's a nightmare without an end, and it asks us, forces us, to confront the terrifying fragility of everything we hold dear. Time moves on. News cycles churn. Tragedies fade, replaced by newer horrors. But some stories cling. They sink roots deep into a country's memory. Casey Rose Bohun's disappearance is one of them. 7 years later, her name still echoes. Her face still appears on posters, in news segments, in the quiet thoughts of strangers across Canada. Why? Why does this one little girl, vanished from a campground, hold such power over us when so many others fade? Think about other missing children cases. Often, sadly, they follow a pattern. A frantic search. Then a clue. A shoe found by the roadside. A blurry image caught on a gas station security camera. A witness who remembers a suspicious car. Sometimes, a confession forced out by guilt or evidence. These cases, however terrible, offer something, a piece of the puzzle, a direction, a terrible answer that, while heartbreaking, allows the world to make a kind of awful sense. There's a reason, there's a villain, there's a place to lay flowers. Casey's case offers nothing. It is a void, an absolute, terrifying blank. No body, not a single bone fragment, not a scrap of her pink shirt washed ashore, not a tiny tooth discovered by an animal. Nothing. 7 years of Alberta seasons, harsh winters, muddy springs, hot summers have passed over that campground and the vast land around it. And still, the earth, the water, the forests have given up no trace of her. She vanished like she was never made of flesh and blood at all. No suspects, no person of interest ever publicly named, no shadowy figure seen lingering near the trailer, no angry relative, no known predator linked to the area, no whispers within the community pointing a finger, just silence. The police investigated. They followed leads. They looked at people, but without evidence, without a crime scene. The trail went cold. There's no one to blame, no face to put to the horror, just an empty space where an answer should be. No digital crumbs. In our world of constant surveillance, of phones tracking every move, of satellites watching from space, Casey left no electronic footprint, no strange phone pings near the campground, no mysterious online activity linked to her or her family around that time, no trail of credit card purchases leading away, no social media posts hinting at danger. Even the crucial campground entrance, a logical point for cameras, offered no footage. The digital age, which solves so much, offered absolutely nothing. She slipped through the net like a ghost. It's just a hole, a gaping, silent hole punched right through reality. One moment, a bright, laughing 3-year-old in dinosaur boots. The next, nothing. Emptiness. It's as if the universe simply erased her. No explanation. No reason. No trace. That is why this case sticks. That's why it haunts. It's not just the tragedy of a missing child. It's the impossibility of it. The utter defiance of logic. How? How does this happen? How does a little girl disappear completely, surrounded by people? In broad daylight, in the 21st century, we are forced to stare into that void, that blank space where answers should be, and it chills us to the bone. It shatters something fundamental. It breaks the illusion we all cling to, especially as parents, the illusion of control, the belief that if we are careful enough, watchful enough, use the right technology, teach the right lessons, we can keep our children safe. We lock doors. We hold hands tightly crossing streets. We warn them about strangers. We track their phones. We believe in systems, police, search teams, Amber Alerts. We tell ourselves, that couldn't happen here. Not to us. Not like that. Casey's story screams the terrible truth. It can happen. It did happen. It happened in a place meant for family fun. It happened in the span of 5 ordinary minutes. It happened despite a mother checking. It happened with no warning, no struggle, no sound. It happened. And then it left nothing behind for experts, technology, or desperate love to find. It forces us to admit a terrifying vulnerability, that even with all our vigilance, all our tools, all our love, the world holds random, inexplicable darkness. That safety is a fragile thing, easily shattered by forces we cannot see or understand. That 5 minutes of ordinary life can be the threshold to an unending nightmare. That sometimes, horror arrives not with a bang, but with a terrible, absolute silence. This case haunts Canada because it holds up a mirror to our deepest fears, not just of losing a child, but of losing them into nothingness, of being left forever in that torturous limbo Carrie Bohun inhabits, of the questions never being answered. It confronts us with the limits of our knowledge, our technology, our very understanding of how the world works. It reminds us that for all our progress, we are still small against the vast, in different currents of chance and mystery. We look at Casey's picture, that little face full of life, and then we look at the utter void that followed. That disconnect is jarring. It feels wrong, unnatural. It offends our sense of justice, of cause and effect. We need stories to make sense. We need endings, even bad ones. Casey's story has no ending. It's a question mark etched permanently onto the Canadian landscape. A question that whispers in the wind off Cold Lake. Where is she? What happened? There's no closure. No villain brought to justice offers catharsis. No tragic accident provides a reason to mourn. Just absence. A little girl who was, and then wasn't. A family trapped in a nightmare without a waking point. A mystery that resists every attempt to solve it. That's why we remember. That's why it sticks. Because Casey Rose Bohun's disappearance isn't just her family's tragedy. It's a stark, unsettling reminder for all of us. A reminder that the universe doesn't always follow the rules we set for it. That sometimes, darkness swallows the light whole, leaving no trace, no answer, just a chilling echo of a question that may never be resolved. How can someone simply cease to exist? Her name lingers because the void she left behind is a shadow we cannot escape. A chilling testament to the fragile, terrifying mystery of being here at all. 7 years, countless searches, endless theories, mountains of frustration, and still, the core question hangs in the air, heavy and unchanging. Where is Casey Rose Bohun? It's the question that wakes her parents in the cold, dark hours before dawn. It's the question etched onto the faces of the investigators who couldn't find her. It's the question that lingers in the quiet spaces of Cold Lake North Campground, long after the tourists have gone home. Where is she? We can circle the possibilities. Cold and stark under the harsh light of this void. Is she buried in the vast Alberta wilderness? Hidden under a fallen log deep in those thick woods the volunteers searched? Concealed beneath rocks near the lakeshore the divers missed? Tucked away in some forgotten corner of the campground itself? A place searchers walked right past 100 times? Did the earth simply swallow her whole, leaving no trace for dogs, technology, or desperate human eyes? Is her small body still out there, waiting silently for a chance discovery that may never come? Or is she alive somewhere? Did someone take her that day? Not to harm her immediately, but to keep her? Is she living under a different name, in a different town, maybe even a different country? Does she have brown hair still? Does she remember a song her mother sang? Does she feel a strange tug at her memory when she sees Dinosaur rain boots in a store? Does she look at the sky sometimes and feel a deep, unexplainable sadness she can't place? Is she 10 years old now, walking to a school she doesn't belong in, loved or controlled by strangers? Her real identity a secret buried under layers of lies? Is the bright spark of Casey Bohun still burning, just hidden? Or did something happen so bizarre, so outside the realm of any theory we've considered, that we haven't even imagined it? Something that defies logic, reason, and the patterns of human behavior we rely on to understand tragedy? A freak accident unlike any other? An encounter so strange it belongs in fiction? A chain of events so improbable it seems impossible? Is the truth about Casey's disappearance something our minds simply can't grasp? These are the possibilities. Cold earth, a stolen life, an unimaginable twist. They sit there, side by side, each as plausible and as maddeningly elusive as the next. There is no evidence pointing strongly to one over the others, only the crushing absence of proof for anything. The police files likely remain open, but stagnant. Tips still trickle in, fueled by renewed media attention or guilty consciences. But they lead nowhere. The trail isn't cold. It was never warm to begin with. It's ice, impenetrable. But Casey's story, at its heart, isn't just about the lack of evidence. It's not just a frustrating puzzle for detectives. It cuts deeper. It's about something fundamental, something terrifying we all try not to think about too often. It's about how fragile our grip on the people we love truly is. We hold them close. We build routines. We create homes full of warmth and noise and familiar things. We believe in the solidity of the ground beneath our feet and the walls around us. We trust the simple act of seeing our child playing nearby. Carrie Bohun saw Casey. She knew she was right there. That knowledge felt solid, real, unshakable. And then, in 5 minutes, it was gone. Not just Casey, but the certainty. The illusion of control shattered completely. Her story screams the truth, the connections we cherish. The people who are our world can be severed in a heartbeat, not by grand disasters, but by ordinary moments turning monstrous. A glance away, a wrong turn, a door left unlocked, a split second of chance meeting darkness. The thread holding us to those we love is terrifyingly thin. It can snap without warning, without reason, without leaving a single frayed end to follow back. 5 minutes. That's all it took. 5 minutes of a mother cooking dinner. 5 minutes of siblings playing. 5 minutes of late summer sunlight filtering through pine trees. 5 minutes that should have been nothing, forgotten moments in an ordinary day. Instead, those 5 minutes unraveled an entire lifetime. Casey's lifetime, the birthdays she won't celebrate, the scraped knees she won't kiss, the dinosaurs she won't roar at, the songs she won't giggle through, the woman she will never become. Carrie and Dwayne's lifetime, the parents they were, replaced by people forever marked by absence and doubt. The future they imagined, gone, replaced by a relentless present of waiting, wondering, and grieving a loss without a body. Her siblings' lifetime, growing up with a ghost for a sister, their childhoods shadowed by a mystery that stole their family's peace. 5 minutes. That's the unbearable weight. That's such a tiny sliver of time. A fragment so small we barely register it passing, can hold the power to destroy worlds. It shows us how precariously we all exist, how the bedrock of our lives can turn to sand in an instant. So, where is Casey Rose Bohun? The question remains, echoing, unanswered. It hangs over Cold Lake. It hangs over her family's dinner table where her plate sits empty. It hangs over every parent who lets their child play out of sight for a moment. We may never know the answer. The void may never give her back. The earth may keep its secret. The stranger may never confess. The bizarre truth may stay beyond our understanding. But her story, and that single, devastating question, forces us to look directly at the fragile, fleeting nature of everything we hold dear. It reminds us that love, for all its power, offers no armor against the random cruelty of chance. It tells us that sometimes, the most important things in our lives rest on a thread so thin, it can be severed in the time it takes to stir a pot on a stove. And once cut, it leaves behind a silence so profound, it echoes forever. If you know anything, a rumor you brushed off, a detail that didn't fit, call the Cold Lake RCMP. Casey's family deserves to lay her to rest. And for the rest of us, hug your kids tonight, not because the world is full of monsters, but because sometimes the universe is crueler than we let ourselves believe.